Right, mic check. Well, how did my chat get way up there? That is something. No, like for real. How did how did it get way up there? Looks like the mic is good. Cam is good. Don't get excited. Timberwolves gonna send them home. What up, pig? Gil basis thunder up. Yeah, we'll see. I think it'll be kind of a fun series to watch. We'll kind of see what ends up happening. By the way, my third monitor died. So like the monitor that I usually have my chat on is like no longer there. Or no. So I'm gonna have to somewhat improvise and get used to where the chat is now, which is on my left side. So we'll kind of see how that works out for the night. So, but with that being said, some D4, and then I think actually for a good chunk of the week we'll kind of segue into a different game. I guess I haven't decided what I want to play as well as D4, so we'll kind of see. He said, but I think the YouTube stream actually looks fine. Actually, what do I want to do in the game anyway? But I guess at least the Eastern Conference, I mean, at least the conference finals are, it's going to kind of look pretty exciting to watch. I'm actually pretty excited to watch Knicks versus Pacers only because of the past rivalry, the history rivalry. Although I was expecting Boston versus Cavs, but we all know what happened with that. But Pig, since you're already there, how have you been, sir? I guess while I'm here, let me see if I can curious about a few things. I'm just excited the Wolves are finally gonna win a basketball World Cup. You're feeling pretty crap? Uh-oh. What happened? Or what's up? I don't think I'm actually able to do the thing. I think I can do it if it was barrage. Still, I don't think they fixed it. Kind of. That's like it did. I think just too much exercise and stress and too little sleep. I didn't know you can actually exercise too much. Or at least in the sense that you're talking about. Are you just like running a lot, or like, you know, or are you talking about like, you know, like muscle building exercise, or like more so like cardio? Because usually it's supposed to be this like the opposite, right? Kind of cardio and stuff like that usually makes you feel better, not worse. You haven't convinced Blizzard to change their super ring yet? I've been trying to get them to do it for several seasons since they actually introduced the ring. You mean like the lob effect? You mean like this little thing right here? Or actually, wrong skill. Are you talking about the lob effect of the ring? Because I've been championing to get rid of that for like the longest. But who knows how much time they actually spent on this unique, affix or whatever. I think they just try to make it better over time, which they did technically, but it still doesn't feel nearly as good as regular rapid fire. Yeah, you're trying to run 40 miles a week in your old as former smoker, former junkie body. Is like, chill, bro. You can't. Yeah. Well, yeah. I can't do I can't do anywhere near that. Those days are like way behind me. Muhammad, what's going on? I don't believe you drummer card in there. What? Bruh. But yes, guild based the lob or whatever like that. I've been championing to try to get rid of that for like forever. So I'm never gonna actually stop. But it doesn't mean that it's gonna ever go through. But I'm gonna always champion to to just remove that period. But after about how many seasons? About 4 seasons of trying, I think at this point it's just kind of is what it is, unfortunately. But you can at least say I did try, or have been trying. Okay. Make sure I didn't mess up something there. You want to hold on to that, I guess. Actually, at this point, I'm probably just gonna go ahead and like stop picking up a lot of gear or much of anything, because I'm pretty much done. I did most of the testing I wanted to do. There really isn't much left. Yeah, I don't really do the whole pit push and stuff, so. I mean, I think we're kind of at that point in the season anyway where people are just kind of like moving on to different things. It feels really weird looking at the chat this way now because my monitor is like gone. I haven't decided whether or not I'm gonna give it like a new monitor or not, but like I just don't want the extra expense at the moment. It was so sad to see my monitor go. Although I think, yeah, I've had that monitor for like, geez, man, I had that monitor for had to have been trying to think 2011, 2012, 2010, 2011. It's like it's had a good like 13 plus year run, so I guess I can't complain too much about it. Storm, arrow storm. I do want to test going crown though. Armor and arrows. But why is my armor so low? Oh, that's why. Technically, I'm still capped. All right, we'll just do that. Solves that. Wearing dark. Oh yeah, my boss powers. Flesh rippers for now. Actually, let's do sharpshooter. And I guess we'll gamble for an amulet. Okay, anything else to do? Anything else to get? Any quick whispers anywhere? Pause there. Okay, yeah, he's there. What up, Panda? So you're doing 70s bars are good, but I feel like there's room for improvement, but you don't know where. How long have you been doing Heartseeker? If you don't mind me asking, like, or have you like, did you just put it together, or you've been like, you know, playing it for a while, getting the appropriate masterworks and stuff like that? Cause like, I have my Heartseeker set up, but I definitely do not have it like min-maxed at all whatsoever, including my glyphs. Like, I can speed 75s pretty decently. I know I can do speed 80s with the, you know, like 3-minute 80s with like fully decked out, fully masterwork, but okay. Been a while now, but definitely not maxed out. Okay. Yeah. I gotta go on another thing real quick. Let's turn this in. I do wish that the whispers were a little more rewarding though. So like getting all these like non-legendary whisper turn-ins or whatever. This feels very bad at this point. Like when there's like a whole, like if all three of the options were like the, you know, the standard white options for the whisper turning, that just feels bad at this point. Their way to play Heartseeker build with Andario's visions around and just around poison instead of cold. No, Andario's is dead. Like, and the best way to do Andariel's really would be Barrage, but like Andariel's helmet's just dead. You'll do far less damage if you try to do it that way. FCare, what's going on? Appreciate the follow. Buff Andarius, please. Totem. I mean, we tell them like all the stuff that you know we talk about on stream or videos like that. Like we tell them. It's just a matter of whatever the timeline is for them. Last season, 9, 10 Whispers had an ancestral choice. Yeah, it's been pretty bad this season with that. And the thing about it is that I actually like getting the Whispers. Like I actually like looking around the map and be like, which 5 Whisper can I get real quick or whatever. Just something real quick. So like having the bosses be Whispers, is quite nice. But it's just like I had my last turn in and it was like awful. And we make Dance of Knives with Andarius. Andarius itself is bad. So it's not really the skill, it's the helm. Like it's no longer in like even like a remotely decent place. I'll put it this way, like on max roll, we do builds and stuff, like all the way down to like C tier, but like if there's a build that we think would struggle in T4, like if a build can't do T4, no matter how good your gear is, like it cannot comfortably farm T4, then we just won't make a build guide for it. And Endario is in that category. You might be able to comfortably farm T3 min-max with any Endario setup. And that's not good. We wouldn't recommend anyone do that to themselves or spend any sort of mats or whatever trying to do that. What do I want to do now? Oh yeah, I kind of want to go between the 2 helms here. There's a lot of lag right now, like a lot of lag. Because if my testing results the other day was correct, I don't think that trick attacks double dips with precision anymore. And if that's the case, there is a case for Crown of Lucian to being, possibly best in slot for even precision builds, maybe. Did the Twisting Blaze build before Heartseeker, and it was get a lot of damage. A lot of damage, but felt underpowered. How does that happen? You said a lot of damage, but felt underpowered. I mean, Heartseeker and Twisting Blaze are about on the same level or similar level right now. Running with the other rogues, but I can't do it. Yeah, well, if the other rogues are playing Death Trap, then it doesn't really matter what build you play. You're not going to be able to keep up, generally. Death Trap is just like the, you know, the rogue's best build for sure. And it does everything really well. I still gotta get these other glyphs up. When I want to do the 16% chance, sure. Oh, I got one. Don't you think it's boring though, that trap build? I don't like traps in general. Sound, appreciate the follow. So, yeah, I'm not really a fan of traps or anything based around traps. Which is why you don't see me playing Death Trap. Nothing wrong with it. Like, nothing wrong with the build at all, obviously. It's just not something that I enjoy myself, so. But that's okay, though. Like, I don't necessarily... I'm not one of the players or people who, you know, kind of have to play what's meta. I've never been that person. I kind of just play what's fun, and if what's fun happens to be meta, then so be it. If not, it's not a big deal. I'm like running out of resources like crazy. Wonder why. I mean, I know they're on a crown, but I shouldn't be acting like this. Yeah. Yeah, so this is interesting. What is causing I'm about to go to Kyover, try to figure it out. Static, what's going on? Oh, well, I guess the game doesn't want me to do anything. It's like, what is this lag? What? Oof. Okay. Maybe that was the issue, but let me go to testing realm. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, so it literally must have been the lag. Like the lag just must have been that bad. I couldn't cast for like nothing. I don't know why. Let's try this again. Actually, you know what? I'm actually curious about something because I can actually change the font of this particular chat. Make it much easier to read. And just this works. Hold on, y'all. Let me. I'm gonna try to figure this out real quick. Man, if I can only just fit this in the OBS, that'd be so nice. Obviously, alerts, chat, themes, colors, generation. Okay, 18. Separators between messages, track for numbers. Okay. All right, that looks a little better on my end. I don't know how it's gonna. If only I can get rid of the dashboard, the dash. I can. Okay, here we go. Oh, I can also see who's like lurking in chat too. That's actually quite nutty. I see all y'all lurking. appreciate the follow. I try to find like if I if I could fit if I could fit this mix it up chat into my OBS somewhere somehow, I would absolutely love that because I can't like change the font and the stream elements multi chat thing. So it's kind of annoying. How's Chrono Lucy on the Heartseeker build? Definitely best in slot. Now it's kind of hard to kind of keep up their energy with some of the boss powers this season. But I think definitely going forward, there's no reason why Crown wouldn't be like the go-to. I'm not gonna make a Spirit Born. You guys, I don't know if I have that class on my client. I got the expansion and everything, but I don't think my client came with anything besides Rogue. Okay, there's a lot of lag. It's hard to play. I guess legit hard to play. Like I literally can't cast sometimes. And it's not the helm, because I went to key overshad. Are you kidding? I couldn't I couldn't cast. Hold on. Okay, my latency says it's at 80. Anyone else playing that's like experiencing any kind of lag? Because this is like really bad. I'm like rubber banding. I'm like. Should you master work the crown? I mean, you can, yeah. I mean, I would try to hit the maximum health since everything else is like not really worth. Although I guess what you could do though, for maximum health. But I guess what you could do though is that if you're playing Heartseeker, you're definitely using Penitent Greaves. So what you could do is you could change the way that you do your resist. Because I mean, if you're using Penitent Greaves, you have cold resistance, right? Kind of Lucian, you have shadow resistance, so you can pretty much go poison, lightning, and fire resist. Whatchamacallit, in your ring slash or whatever, if you want to go that route. So I might play around with that in the future, but reality is you want to work the maximum life because everything else doesn't really matter. But I can't play, man. This feels bad. Yeah, I can't even cast. All right. This is just bad. I don't even know if we can play Diablo today. If it's gonna be like this. Yeah, my latency just jumped up to 117. I'm pretty sure it's not the helm, and it shouldn't be the helm. We'll go again though. Oh, your res are 72. Hades it is. I'm thinking about it, honestly. I actually, if you guys got some recommendations on like what I should play for like a second game or whatever, for like the second half of a stream going forward, please let me know. Not an action RPG though. I'm not looking for like another like, you know, looter per se. This feels awful. The new Doom. Maybe. Am I a Pokemon fan? Nah. Although I used to kind of watch it a lot growing up, like the cartoon or anime, whatever you want to call it. Pokemon is technically an anime since it's Japanese, right? Yeah, but I mean, I guess I'm down for like any sort of action game. Roguelikes are a thing too as well. I really like roguelikes. I'm also not against the Souls likes as well. I probably should finish the first Berserker. I stopped after I beat the third boss, I think it was. Mainly because D4 Season 8 came out. Yeah, because right now this feels really, really, really bad. Crown feels good. Yeah. Honestly, I think Crown would be like best in slot for probably a lot of rogue builds going forward. It's also a very easy way. Oh yeah, I'll put it this way: a lot of rogue builds that are not necessarily ultimate based or like Rain of Arrows or DT in that sense. But I think for a lot of other things, honestly, it has the best multiplier. And if you don't need the crit chance from air, then Crown makes sense as long as you can sustain it. Before we were kind of stuck with Kyle the Nameless because of how strong Trick Attacks was, the fact that it compounded upon itself. So it was just too strong, and so that just kind of made it into almost every rogue build. But now that that's no longer the case, we actually have more options. Build. I gotta change that link for sure. No, this is Rain of Arrows. But to be quite honest with you, I think I'm about to actually do something different. I think I might have to go and play some Hades or something. The game feels bad right now with the amount of lag. It don't happen sometimes. What does? Oh, sometimes you can't use the Heart Seeker. Yeah, because when you're running Cax or whatever, you do run out of like all your energy in general, and so like you just don't have any energy to actually cast the next Heart Seeker. So that does happen sometimes. The only way around that is to literally not run Cax or run the Harbinger secondary boss power. So that's gonna be a thing. Resources goes. Yep. Yeah. Like it's annoying at first when you don't know what's happening, but once you do, you kind of just play around it because the damage bonus the damage buff you get from it is just too big not to use. So there is that. We'll do some Infernal Hordes. I don't have to be nearly as precise. Like Shadow Clones, that it's not up every 4. Yeah, that's the part that feels really good. Oh yeah, my character's sliding all over the place. Rogue Agent, what's up? Your amulet gives you +3 energy on kill. I'm assuming that's like a, unfortunate stat you didn't want, but it had like. Yeah. Blame, what's up, man? Yeah. I don't know if it's anyone else, but the game feels really bad to play right now. It just feels bad. Yeah, last but yeah, it's like really bad for me, man. I'll get like whole like 4 or 5, 6 second spikes, and my character is just like gliding across the screen, or like stay in place depending. Or banning, yeah, that too. TH says the game feels fine for you, really. Yeah, right there. It just happened a couple of times. I really do hope like the next season shakes up. They do a lot more like balance tuning next season. I won't necessarily say just balance tuning, but like, like shake things up between the skills a bit. How we play the game, or how we play each class, the game, for the skills. You did get your 2 GAB swabbies with max resource and ult cooldown. Nice. Yeah, I'm like, my character's like skating across the screen. Only took you a while. A week and a bit? Jeez. Been doing 85 on Heart Seeker with new gear. Pretty smooth experience. What are you averaging speed wise? On 85s. I feel like I got like a while to go before I can like min-max my Heart Seeker. Like I don't even have my glyphs at. Like most of my glyphs are not even like 90. Yeah, I can do 85 in just over 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Oh yeah, that's death. Okay, yeah, that's death trap. I was asking Blame for Heart Seeker. But yeah, that's not. I mean, that's not bad for death trap. I think min max death trap is like about maybe 3.5 minutes 100s or whatever like that. 3.5 4 minute 100s or roughly around that range. Maybe a little quicker. He said my bad. Oh no man, you're good. You're good. I was asking Blame about Heart Seeker because there isn't much data out there for Heart, you know, for other builds outside of Death Trap, right? In terms of what they're doing. Bro, I cannot cast. This is annoying. You still doing Crown though, Blame? Crown with the Harbinger as well. I think I had another Heartseeker player in here saying he really liked the Crown. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll probably start seeing Crown more in the future anyhow. Not to mention it has shadow resistance. And most builds are gonna have not most, but I mean, I would say a chunk of our builds are gonna have Penitent Greaves, so you get your shadow resistance and your core resistance up with just those two basically, and then you can just go the other 3 resistances like single res on your jury and then easy cap. You know, I don't even think you even have to roll art resist anywhere really. You can just focus on armor. What do you need to change to switch to the Air Perdition Death Trap? I don't really know what your current gear is, so it's kind of hard for me to tell you what you have and what you don't have, or what version you're doing right now. But if you want, I would just go to the Maxro site and look at the guide from there, because we have it kind of laid out for you. Are you using fur, Blame? Yeah. The fur aspect. Oh no. So if you do exclamation mark Bill, I'm not playing Death Trap, so I wouldn't even have that linked. But you can just go straight to Maxro though. Didn't know you should just. No, I was just asking because like those numbers would seem like, you know, if you got like a high, you know, stacked for her or whatever like that on your clone while attacking, then you know those numbers seem like that would be that. You got Behemoth, okay. I don't even know if for her like snapshots your clone like all the way. Like, is it like once you get like the 10th, like once you cast your shadow clone on like stack 8 or something like that, does it keep the 80% bonus or whatever throughout the entire shadow clones attacking or whatever? I don't know if that's been tested or whatnot. You say you min max, yeah. I think the highest crits I've seen while playing Heart Seeker was what, maybe 40, 50 bill, maybe on like the high end. So I got some ways to go. The dash is too good. I'm lagging. Oh, I got mouse kill still. Yeah. But generally, yeah. I mean, generally, oh, now I get it. Now I get now I get Hellborn. Yeah, I mean, every season I at least try to min-max one build after I test all the other stuff. But I don't know if I'm gonna get to that point this time around. Oh yeah, that +1 range to Frigid Finesse is actually a pretty big deal. $99 bill, so you're not doing that. There. But then you have the mass work all over again. And get lucky in that sense. Moose, appreciate the follow. I have a feeling that I guess another reason that's kind of preventing me from like min-maxing something this season is because the PTR seems like it's gonna be like PTR is probably next week. If the timelines are, you know, has been consistent with previous timelines after a campfire talking about the PTR. Usually it's the Tuesday following, usually. Yeah, Pants to have +5 to Heart Seeker. Yeah, mine is +7. I have no plans on messing with that anytime soon. I'm gonna just leave it as it is. What do I think the dungeon escalation might be? If I'm going off the terms, dungeon escalation, I'm assuming it's some sort of scaled activity of some sort. Like, you know, where I'm assuming something harder than Nightmare Dungeons, but I don't know what path they're gonna take to escalate the difficulty and how they're gonna do it. I will say that like I'm a little excited about it, a little. And the reason why I say that is because when they do revisions or revisions to certain content, it's usually not bad. It's not great, but you know, but it's not bad. Like it's actually kind of decent. Like when they brought In Front of Hordes for the first time, that was good. It's probably the best thing they've actually brought to the game in terms of content is concerned. The rework or the revision of the lair boss thing is pretty decent. Like it's got some things, you know, it's got some, you know, edges that needs to be buffed out, up the major leg again. But I think overall, like the idea of what they did was good, was pretty solid. They just need to refine it. So I'm interested to see what they're gonna do with the escalation stuff, and I hope that that becomes content that we end up doing more of in general. Like we spend more time doing that than like, let's say, pits or whatever. Because I'm definitely ready for a shakeup in terms of in-game loop per se. Maybe it's a roguelike mechanic. Each run gets harder until you fail or something. I'd be down with that. Speaking of which, Panda, what's up, sir? I have not been able, like, it's been like extremely laggy for me, man. Like my character is skating around doing all kinds of things but what my character should be doing. But honestly, we need profane mind cages, give players ability to make any content harder without impacting casuals. I would say the profane mind. So I like the idea of them, and I like them in the front of hordes. But I don't know, like, if the mind cages can make the content hard enough for a lot of the builds that we tend to play. Like making them like, you know, a little harder, which is what they were in the past. I don't really think it's enough to kind of like keep you interested. Like it might keep you interested, like, you know, for like 1 or 2 upgrades on your gear before that becomes irrelevant again. But I don't dislike the idea of mind cages in general. Like, but I don't know if that's enough, to be honest. Unless mind cages just somehow just like, I don't know. Because I think mind cages might just completely make, you know, or completely gate, you know, like in order for the mind cages to be challenging enough for those who actually do play the game a lot, the mind cages would definitely gate the casuals away from like that kind of content, which sure, right, but it's gotta be like, I don't know, like is that going to be enough to keep people interested and wanting to continue to keep upgrading their gear for the mind caged difficulty, if that makes sense? But what if you can stack them? I guess sure, but I'm thinking in order to like really establish some longevity in a sense, there's got to be something that makes it feel like you're making progression, like you're continuing to progress. Currently, the only way that you feel like you're still progressing in any manner at the moment is pit, basically, for the player who likes to play a lot. So I guess you could say what I'm saying is that like giving content that somewhat just becomes out of the reach of even the most like hardcore player in terms of being able to scale it is really the only way that you're gonna be able to keep people who play a lot interested or continuing to want to play and be interested in, right? Like I said, we have that with Pit, but Pit, you know, not a lot of people really like, you know, Pit in general and the way that it is designed. So there are other options in which we can add scaling content too. In Front of Hordes is one, Nightmare Dungeons is another that we can do. That's possible. Curious Undercity can be that too as well. Use one for every 4 say 5 pit level increase in Hell Tide, 2 for 10. Let us make Hell Tide impossible. I guess so. The question at that point would be is where would the mind cages drop? How would we go about farming mind cages? Because that part has to be fun too, right? where would they know? Like, what would be the best place to farm for them? Jeez, that's a hard. I like the cow trap size though. I don't know. That's hard. A part of me wants to say the 7 frigid finesse, honestly. But this one has cow trap size on it. I'm sure that feels good too. So you think the desk one is better? Do you have a lot of GA decks everywhere? Like, do you have GA decks well, you do. You said you are pretty min max. So yeah. Yeah. Probably, yeah. Is a core stat multiplier? Yes. Separate multiplier. I thought you were on PoE. When was that, Ghost Chiller? I did play some PoE too in December and a little bit of January, but that's about it. Got about 200 hours into it. I'm changing games, messing the algorithm up. I haven't played PoE since like. Actually, I don't even play PoE like the original PoE at all. I played PoE 2 in December, January, and I gave the new big patch a try for like 6 or 7 hours, but didn't like it. Yeah, I would say keep the Dex one, man. The GA Dex one. That couch up size is really good, and if you have GA Dex everywhere else, then this should math out to be a little bit better than the +2 frigid finesse. However, if this was masterwork a little differently though, like let's say if that was, I don't know if you really want to like have any hits on masterwork on a dex at all, but if it was like maybe 2 frigid finesse and 1 malice or something like that, that might be slightly better. Last time I saw you were on PoE 2. Bro, that was back in December. So like you haven't visited my stream since December is what you're saying, and then you come back in May and be like, yeah, I thought you was playing PoE 5 months ago. Well, how am I currently using? Calvin Nameless. Although a part of me actually likes using Crown in this setup too as well, but I have to change the whatchamacallit if I do it this way. Try for 7 frigid finesse, but you ran the mats. Oh, 6? Gotcha. What kind of new in-game system would I like to see? Someone said, you know, just make them drop like any other elixirs. You mean the mine cage? I don't know. Like if they're going to make content a bit harder, or you know, be able to allow you to scale content a little harder, do you think they should be that easy to obtain? Because then you're gonna have like a jillion mine cages. Like you wouldn't be able to, you know, use enough of them before like, you know, having the whole inventory just like, you know, of those. Do I need help? No, I'm good. I appreciate it though. And the unique affix doesn't really matter. But nah, man, I appreciate it though. In terms of an in-game system, I would like to see. Honestly, I would like to see Inferno Hordes have a scaling system. I think I talked about this before, but like, imagine like keeping Inferno Hordes the way it is right now, right? Like at least the version we got right now. but then we have a new key, and you can, you know, rename it any sort of like cheesy name that you want, you know, like Greater Inferno Hordes or whatever. I don't know, like some whatever cheesy name for a key, but you got to do something for that key, and this key changes up how Inferno Hordes are, you know, played a little bit. So you still have the one that we have right now, that's for farming or whatever that you do, but then this other one is actually for well, for difficulty and, you know, test your gear, test your, you know, that kind of thing. And what this Inferno Horde key would do is that you open, you know, use the key, and you no longer have boons anymore. So you don't choose boons anymore. They're now baked into Inferno Hordes depending on the wave level. So now we have Inferno Hordes with this key that's technically infinite waves. Okay. And so in order for you to fail a wave, it's not necessarily you dying that makes you fail, but you have to be able to kill enough mobs within a meter. So if there's too many mobs are on the map, you get this thing that you know is basically called overwhelm, basically. So like the more mobs are on the map, the more that meter fills. And if you can't kill it fast enough, you'll become overwhelmed, and then that wave is done. Like you're done. Like that wave is over, and then you have to go fight the 3 boss, you know, single target boss mobs or like that, and then you clear that wave, and then you're done. But to go into more detail, you'll start at wave 1, and wave 1 will obviously be pretty easy. But then once you hit wave 5, then one of the boons will be part of that wave 5, and from wave 5 on. So like for instance, like wave 5 will have Hellborns. So now wave 5, Hellborns spawn. But now wave 5 on, Hellborns will always spawn every time from wave 5 to however, you know, until you fail. So now you're just increasing the difficulty without it just being more health and more damage, right? Wave 10, let's say Hellfire now starts to fall from the sky, right? So now you got to deal with Hellborns and Hellfire, right? From wave 10 on. And then in wave 15, Aether Lords respawn. So now you got to deal with Hellborns, Aether Lords, Hellfire, you know, from wave 15 on. And then wave 20, let's say the Butcher now spawns, right? So now the Butcher spawns from wave 20 on with everything else. And so now you have a difficulty that increases over, you know, per wave that isn't just they deal more damage or they have more health. You got to deal with more things as well per wave. And so like someone who cleared a wave 19, someone who cleared a wave 20 would be more impressive than someone clearing a wave 19 because the wave 19 didn't have the Butcher. You see what I'm saying? So now there's elements that you have to think about and be like, oh, my build can't kill the Butcher or whatever. I need to change some things up because Butcher will naturally have more health because it's, you know, the Butcher. And you got to think about how to kill him because he takes up a big part of that overwhelm meter. So you can do a leaderboard out of this by basically like having who completed whatever wave or whatever in that sense. So like basically whoever has the highest wave clear will, you know, be ranked higher on the leaderboard or something like that. So you can kind of do something like that in a sense that kind of makes it fun to want to continue to keep doing something like this and, you know, messing around with your build to be able to not only do AoE, but also do decent single target in certain situations, or find a way to be able to kind of like, you know, maneuver, you know, mobs to, you know, do more damage. Like let's say the Hellfire doesn't only damage you, but it also damages the enemy. So now you gotta, you know, you can use the environment to your advantage in case you just don't have the single target damage or whatever. Or you do, but you just want to use the Hellfire for the AoE or whatever. So there's some strategical elements in there. But the big thing is that you can't fish for this. So you can't just go into a wave 1 and be like, oh, I'm gonna just start over because, you know, the first wave didn't get, you know, have the mob type or the, you know, whatever. Like you have to play every wave in a sense. So you get rid of the whole fishing aspect of it. You have to play every one because you don't really know how it's going to really turn out for you. And fishing doesn't give you better chances and whatnot. So I think it'll be kind of interesting to kind of see something like that. repeatable and such. Dread, what's up, man? So I think you can do a leaderboard system around that. I think you'll also give players a reason to, you know, min-max their gear, find different pieces or whatever. It also gives people a reason to, you know, change their build around. It's like, oh man, I was fine doing wave 15, but man, I got the wave 20 when the butcher spawned and I just couldn't kill the butcher, right? You know, well, now you got to think about why you couldn't kill the butcher with your current setup. Now you have to kind of like rethink it for wave 20 on, even though your setup was fine all the way up until, you know, wave 19. Or you know, all the way to wave 19, etc. Whereas right now we don't have any reason to really change much of anything. You can face tank most stuff once you're kind of min-max in the pit, and then you can pretty much fish for the best scenario for your build clear after failing 200 to 300 times for a single clear. You know, like like it was back in Diablo 3 days, but significantly worse. So if I had it my way, that's kind of what I would do for Inferno Horde. I just think Inferno Horde just has so much potential for longevity type of content, and I just can't imagine why they just don't tap into that. And I guess they had on the roadmap there is, you know, Inferno Horde thing or whatever, so maybe they will, but it's like I can't imagine like waiting like 5 or 6 seasons to tap into what potentially is like one of the best contents that you've created and you did nothing with for like literally 5 seasons. Yes, sir. Butcher needs to come every wave until So like I said, so it's not just pseudo difficulty. Like there's actual, I gotta do something different within the environment difficulty, and not, oh, I just didn't do enough damage, or oh, I didn't have enough defense to face tank whatever. You have to actually kind of think about it a bit, especially if you want to clear that wave strategically. Said the juicier builds will milk way too much juice out of ores. Well, I mean, in this case scenario, you're not really getting any reward until the end, like until you kill the whatever, like the 3 bosses at the end. So when you fail the wave, then the wave itself ends, but you still got to go through the door and kill the 3 boss things for whatever reward that would be. I don't know if you want something too significant or not, but something, I guess. For doing, or for trying. You don't want to like spend all that time doing all those waves and get nothing out of it, right? But you also don't want it to be like the ultimate farm spot at the same time. It's supposed to be, okay, I got the gear for such and such, or I've been tailoring this build. Let's see what this build can do type activity in a sense. Blizzard brainstorming isn't as creative with what they already created. I guess fair. My tripping or did you see pop just one? Yeah, just one. $35.60 decks, nice. Jeez. Parties are bad. They need to do new design team. I do feel like, I think I've actually made this mention before. Like I actually spoke about this before, but I do feel like the whole focusing on the future, like what's ahead for the game, means that there's not enough resources or the team to focus on the now. Like, I'm sure they have a lot of vision going ahead in terms of what they want to do for the game going forward, but a lot of times they have plans that are so far out, but with no means to know how to deal with the now. So like when something happens or a problem happens or an unforeseen build is too strong or bugs or whatever like that, it's like instead of like focusing on like the now and kind of making the now good, they have to kind of figure out what to do and how to allocate the resources in a sense to deal with the now when they're already so far in the future dealing with other things. And it ends up, sure, I mean, I guess it's neat to kind of have future, you know, stuff come into the game that hopefully changes the way the game, you know, operates and happens. But if you can't deal with the now and, you know, fix the problems that we're dealing with for the now, you know, the players aren't going to wait around 6 months before the solution finally comes in the timeline that they have scheduled, right? And I feel like that's kind of what that's kind of what we're in, or it's what we feel like we're in. Like a lot of things we're complaining about now, there's probably a fix or a rework or whatever and a timeline that's months and months away. Because they've already established a timeline for the things that they're already doing and they're not going to derail that. But Dre, what have you been up to, man? Yeah, one thing is sure is that they don't play the game either. Sometimes I do feel that way. They do play their game, but there are sometimes, man, like, I don't know. Like, we play a lot more than they probably have the time to do, in a sense. But then there are also times where I'm just like, there's no way that they could have played this particular core skill with these uniques that they designed for core skill and thought that this was okay. Rapid fire is one of them with all the bugs I found the other day. Victimize is another, with that being in the state that it is. Like, you're punished for picking a key passive, which is insane. It's better to not pick a key passive than to pick a key passive and build around, or pick Victimize and build around it, which is nutty to me. Either they know is that bad and they have a fix for it like 6 months down the line, like I was telling you before, or they really just didn't know it was that bad because, you know, they didn't really build it out or whatever. But yeah. But I mind going over the build when I get a chance. I'm having newbie issues getting my render rails hitting past 904 million. So, question for you, Boys Go? Boys Go? Is that how I say it? Did you just put your render arrows build together, or like you've been trying, you've had it for a while and you've been masterworking and you still can't get it to hit hard? Because 904 million almost kind of smells like you just put it together, and if so, that's not uncommon. It's just a matter of getting better pieces and masterworking correctly, and those kind of things. Also, your paragon, your glyphs, and all those kind of things. If you're following a build guide. Yeah, let's be honest here. They're not making a game for them to have fun. Before making it people having fun, which is in my opinion a massive important thing in game design. So they're not making the game for them to have fun first before making it people having fun. So realistically speaking, if you want to, to be honest, the game devs are making a game in which the corporation thinks that is going to make the most money. It's not necessarily about what the devs technically find fun or what they believe is fun. It's going to be basically what's going to, make them what's going to make the most money at the end of the day. So if it means that they can kind of slip in a couple of things that they think would be better off or be better without, overhead being like, what are you doing? They'll probably do so. But like realistically speaking, I mean, which makes it's not just Blizzard games though. Like I think people kind of think, oh, it's only Blizzard that's a big company, that only does that. No, lots of companies do that. lots of companies that become bigger with more overhead. That just ends up being the case. But we think is, but like, obviously back in the day when Blizzard didn't have as much overhead and it was just Blizzard before Activision Blizzard became a thing, et cetera, they did it their way, and they used a bunch of they were not efficient with resources at all. They were not good with profit margins at all. But they made the game that they wanted to make and people loved it, and it was good. 3 weeks, you've masterworked everything. Okay, yeah, there's some major issues then if you cannot hit at least 1 billion in damage. Like some major issues. What build guide are you following though, Boys Go? If you don't mind me asking. Let me go back and read Dre's comment real quick. They need to set on a foundation for the game each season since the first had major overhauls for parts of the game, but the whole never seem holistic. It's that pipe dream, maybe in our live service hellscape. But it could be made a priority rather than what it is. That's of major changes didn't do the usual fixing the base game like LOD and I could say Reaper of Souls, but upended the game systems to where multiple seasons are required to fix the base game again. That is some truth. Boys Go, what build guide are you following? But your own, probably that's the issue. So Rain of Veils is can be a pretty convoluted build. So if you don't necessarily understand all the ins and outs of it, it's easy to not deal damage. That's why I was saying I probably would suggest that you do follow a guide for a build like this. Rain of Veils is not one of those things that you can kind of, I don't want to say figure out on your own. I don't want to sound like no one will ever figure it out. But Rain of Veils is definitely one of those, you have to have a good rotation, understanding of a good rotation and why that rotation works. Nothing of gain will happen until they just get the foundation solid, the systems working together, and the rewards making sense, and then they can make new stuff that plus into those systems in a more balanced and functional manner. I do agree with that. That's actually what I don't like. Like, for instance, my favorite season was season 4 and season 5, because they a lot. Well, season 4 focused a lot on the core game issues. Season 5 kind of did that a little bit, but with like the uniques, and it did add Infernal Horrors, which was fun. All these kind of like one and done seasonal stuff, like the boss powers and things like that. Like, if they could have spent more time with the base game stuff versus the boss power stuff, I would have much preferred that. But yeah, Boys Go. Yeah, but there's a lot of things to it. It's not necessarily just the gear, but there's a lot of things to it. Like, for instance, did you temper crit damage everywhere on all the pieces of gear that you have? Or you're using Word of Hakan. Might sound like silly, but making sure are you using Word of Hakan. Or you're using the Aerostorm aspects, like Aerostorm here and also Vengeful here, because they also give you bonus based on your Word of Hakan. Like, that's important. Sometimes people don't think about that when you're looking at it initially. To boss wills, actually kind of important, because you need to get your cooldown, your cooldown off of Rain of Arrows fast enough for you to cast it again with the 1-to-3 ratio. So to boss will is important for that. Then you got some very important stuff on the Paragon board. You have to make sure you take damage versus distance stuff, because that scales your Rain of Arrows rank 5 on your skill tree. So you see Ranger here is taken, also Ranger here, and the Surrounding Nodes are also taken. Very important. Then you have to be able to proc Dance Macabre or Macabre, however you want to say it. Very important that you do that, but you have to have a skill to do it. So you have to make sure that you cast Concealment before you cast Rain of Arrows every time to get this particular legendary node bonus. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So there's a lot of things that kind of goes into the Rain of Arrows build that if you didn't know before, it's going to be hard to like make your own. But for me, fixing basic issues that season theme and action in an action RPG is wild. Well, some of the things do require a lot of time though, because like fixing a bit of the core issues in the game or whatever is not something that like can always be done in like a patch or like a month or so. Some things, some fixes, some system issues can require a lot longer. Like the whole itemization thing that they did for season 4, that took them a while. Like they wanted to do that at launch but couldn't. It took them 4 seasons to get to that point. You got to spoil with the PoE leagues. It's also, keep in mind too that like PoE was also a smaller team with less overhead when they did their thing, right? When you think about before they were acquired by Tencent, they were able to call their own shots and do whatever they want to do. They didn't have overhead, they didn't have red tape, they didn't be like, hey, can we do this, or can we get the resources allocated to do that? They were able to do it at whenever they wanted to at that time. So it's a little different. Like Blizzard kind of had that same freedom at one point before, a while ago. Yeah, okay, but work on something special that makes the season special and slide what you worked into the patch. That's still. I think the thing is that it's hard to do that in 3 months though. Like D4, I'll put it this way: D4 is a considerably bigger game than PoE is in terms of like, not in terms of systems per se, but in terms of like the actual game, scope. It's a considerably bigger game. with a lot more interworkings and stuff like that than PoE is itself. It's kind of hard to, I'm not like necessarily defending them in that sense, but it's hard to compare a way a game has been structured that might not be as complicated to a game that's a bit more complicated on the coding side of things, not necessarily the systems or whatever like that. Obviously PoE has considerably more systems and better systems, let's be honest, but like from a game standpoint, D4 is a bit more complex under the hood in terms of like everything that works together. So like it's hard to really compare one company doing one thing to another company doing another thing in terms of how long it takes to do something on a given engine, right? And then the fact that you also got to do it across, you know, like it's also like multi-platform at the same time. So like you said, D4 is not complex. Under the hood, it is. Like I'm not talking about systems. People, like we're talking about like the game itself. The game itself, how like all the things that it takes, everything that it takes to be able like for the game to actually run is pretty complex. I know people don't want to admit it, and we want to say, oh, the end game is system, you know, simple. I'm not talking about the systems. I'm not talking about the amount of end game. I'm talking about the back end. The back end of the game is really complex. Yes, the back end of the game is pretty complex because it's like all this right here, this whole open world thing that we don't really get to use. All that happening in real time is actually a lot of work. It's actually a lot of work, a lot of dead work, honestly, because we don't really care about it as whatever. But like all of this here, all this to function in live time and also being able to, you know, multi-platform, play with anyone, anywhere in the world on any platform at the same time, all this going on. That's a lot of stuff happening on the back end. And then the game is also visually more complex than any of the other action RPGs, let's be honest, easily. It's just, I think the thing is that like, there's more back-end moving systems, and that makes it more difficult to be able to roll something out as quickly all the time. Like if your game's frame point, like the underneath the hood is pretty simple, it makes it a lot easier to be able to make updates and kind of go in without messing up other parts of the game or code and stuff like that. With that being said, Blizzard kind of shot themselves in the foot with that. Like they put that on themselves to make this whole big open world thing that doesn't really matter at the end of the day, right? They kind of did that to themselves, and now they're kind of stuck with it, right? But it means that they have to make sure all that stuff still functions while doing every patch and whatnot, and it only hurts them in the long run. Oh yeah, it's definitely a bad decision. Like when you look back in hindsight, it's a terrible decision. But I understood why they wanted to do it, but you look back at it right now, it's like, bro, like imagine the amount of time and resources they could have saved had they not did that. Like, also blames it as same thing with blames as if PoE Foundation already been built. They can use 100% of the team on seasonal new endgame stuff. That too. What up, Clover? That makes you sad. It kind of makes me sad too a little bit. Not gonna lie, but honestly, this whole like, you know, mix between, you know, or having some MMO elements or whatever and an action RPG. I mean, I was never really a big fan of it to begin with. I understand why they wanted to do it, but man, like, again, like, I don't know. But like I said, they're kind of stuck with it now, in a sense. I don't think I would have did this whole like really humongous world. And the thing about it is that like this, like this whole world here, like if you just, I'll put it this way, if you go on like your mount, actually not even a mount, if you just walk around, which obviously you're not going to do that, right? They're not going to do that, but like you're not going to do that. But if you just walked around this world of sanctuary here, all the different places in the map, it's actually pretty well designed from a visual standpoint. Like if you just walked around and literally just like looked at all the different areas and just kind of go from one place to another, they did a fantastic job of how it looks. Like it is like going from this area to Kyovashad, you know, all the way to like it's pretty seamless and it looks amazing, right? But obviously where they ran into the issue with is that none of us really care about any of this at all because there's no reason to go from zone to zone or travel from zone to zone, and there's nothing interesting enough to link us from going from one zone to another zone to another zone. So all of this really good work that they put into all of this here is just ultimately at the end of the day just gets unused. Like this is a massive amount of work they did in this work in this world, and we don't interact with barely any of it. But it's so good looking. But it's just a waste of resources at this point. Unfortunately. Yeah, it really is. Like, I know we like to, you know, crap on the game a lot, and I do too in certain instances. But like, man, like there are some good points, you know, there are some good things about the game that just gets overshadowed because it's like, you know, there's so many other problems that we kind of forget, and it's hard to appreciate some of the good things in the game itself. But yeah, that whole open world thing, as gorgeous as it looks for an action RPG, I don't know. An action RPG team with MMO eyes and a corporate stomach. There, yeah. I will definitely tell you now that I'm sure they look back at it now as a whole and like kind of regret doing all that. Making a team work in such a brief war and do nothing with it as a core design is just dumb. So yes, although I will say we as a player base is kind of partially responsible for that too, because we didn't like we didn't like using our mouse to go from dungeon to dungeon. Like we just wanted instant teleport everywhere. Like we as players didn't care about any. So even when they tried to get us to go from dungeon to dungeon, back when you had to actually do dungeons back in season 1 and whatever like that, but you have to travel to each dungeon, we hated that. Remember? Like we hated that. So even when we had a reason to travel to the dungeons, we as a player base didn't want to do that. We preferred to teleport to the dungeons, which eventually Blizzard said, okay, sure, we'll do that. But upon doing so meant that you interact with the open world even less. Now, don't get me wrong, there still should be more things to do in the open world besides traveling from dungeon to dungeon. Although, I do think that, you know, we as players would just prefer the instant, I don't care, get me to the content I want to do ASAP type stuff. I'm sure people remember back in, like, you know, season 1 and season 2, especially, right, where they're just like, man, I don't want to travel, like I don't want to have to actually go to the dungeon, you know, via Horus or whatever. I want to just teleport to it. Any builds looking forward to seeing in season 9 for Rogue? I won't say builds. I mean, we kind of have. I'm just looking forward to. I'm hoping just a shake up in like how our class is played in general. I wouldn't necessarily say like a particular build in mind. Like for instance, like I think Shadow Clone is way too strong, and it really kills anything that you can do on your character that isn't Shadow Clone based, other than like other ultimates. So like, if you're not playing Rain of Arrows or you're not playing Death Trap, then you're forced to use Shadow Clone in your builds because the Shadow Clone does more damage than you do, big time. And unless you have a build in which the Shadow Clone isn't too derpy in, then that means your build is bad. Like for instance, Rapid Fire is really bad with Clone. The Clone does all the damage, meaning that Rapid Fire without Clone is pathetic. Any build without Clone is actually pretty bad right now on Rogue. Every build, every Rogue build without Clone that isn't an ultimate build is bad. And that's a big problem. So I'm not necessarily saying new builds. I don't want them to really design new builds. Like, please don't give us, I don't want to see like a new unique. Well, let me phrase that. I would rather not see a new unique with some sort of gimmick for one new build versus fixing the core issues with the class itself as a whole, with Victimize and Shadow Clone and Rapid Fire Ring not working properly, you know, those kind of things. Send you a link for Dance with Knives. You can check on Maxro. We have all our guides there. The only thing they regret it is a strong point. They can do stuff with it. Well, I would say regret because of the amount of work they have to do. Because every time they do anything, you have to test it within all the stuff in the back end. All that work they did in the back end for all that stuff. Like that includes all the open world stuff. All the events that's happening live on the open world has to also be tested with every change they make. That's a crap ton amount of work they have to do to keep, because of the whole, with the addition to the open world stuff. Whereas if they didn't have it, they could, it would make testing new things, period, a lot easier. So it ends up being a problem in the long run in terms of like, So I would say it's a regret for sure, for sure. Imagine having to update all that and then make sure all that still runs smoothly for people not to care about it. It's got to feel bad. I'd feel bad. Isn't there a new content coming in with next year's expansion? Yeah. Which I think at this point, they're kind of stuck with that at this point. It's not until D5 and, when they can reel things back again. But yeah, they're kind of stuck with that idea. So rogue builds that don't rely on ultimates. Well, yeah, it's the thing. There are no rogue builds right now that don't rely on some sort of ultimate to be functional. The only one that is pretty okay at it is Poison Imbuement Twisting Blaze. And even then, that has its own set of problems. Helltide was a great initiative content that takes place in the world they created. Yeah, but even now, like, you don't see people that actually like really enjoy doing Helltides right now. More so because of the reward structure, to be honest. But it shouldn't take necessarily, an event like Helltides to make you want to do the open world stuff. The open world stuff should just be, should have enough going on in it or be rewarding enough without turning the open world into a certain thing. But hey. Also, Digital Device. Sorry, I just saw the sub. Appreciate you, sir. Man, imagine if something like Helltides were dynamic and spread to cities or something impactful. So many neat things they can do in theory with that big world. Yeah, they can. They can. But I think too, at the same time, there's probably I think the core game has enough problems to where I don't think they if they want to do things with more with the open world, I don't know if they really have the, I don't want to say time, but like I don't know if they can really get to that before fixing masterworking and tempering and itemization at the time in season 4. You know, there are bigger things that are bigger problems than the open world problem, which is also a problem, but you know, which one is the bigger problem? You know what I mean? I think once the game is like in a considerably better place, that's something they can probably consider doing, but at the moment they probably can't. I won't say can't, but like their priority for something like that is just probably not there right now. As you can see with the roadmap, the priority seems to be, you know, tackling the in-game content that just doesn't really have any sort of like longevity to them, like Nightmare Dungeons, for example. The boss layer stuff was, you know, the thing that they did this season, but they got Nightmare and Dungeon Excursions next season, and then Inferno Horde something the following season. So it seems like they're trying to tackle the in-game content being, you know, practically irrelevant problem. They may help tie users with Undercity in the game. I mean, you're not wrong. PvP areas untouched this launch. That too. I actually forgot about that, honestly. I forgot about the PvP area. I've tried the new poison trap. I have not. Matthias has, but I have not. Being with the sub, appreciate you. Just make community suggestions for ideas. So, I mean, I put it this way. As a Diablo partner, part of our responsibility is to, like, we're technically like ambassadors at the end of the day, loosely. I use that term loosely. Like we have our own communities, we talk amongst our communities, and then we kind of like, you know, pile feedback based on what we see our communities, you know, want or saying, or, you know, those kind of things. So a lot of us advocate for you guys, more so behind the scenes. Also, things that we personally would like to see too as well, but most of it is really, you know, my community is saying this, or this is what's happening in my community, and, you know, and so like there's different Diablo partners with different types of communities and whatnot. So there's a broad range of feedback being given at any given time on almost a daily basis, basically. Like they get a lot of feedback from us every day. Every day. Star Fox said he's tuning in. How's it going so far? Trying to play within the game's lag. The game has been lagging like crazy. So Horrors, I'm curious what they do with Horrors in season 10. Me too, man. Horrors is my favorite content. When look at the tier list of Maxro, they are graded from top to bottom, starting from the left column, left to right. Maxro tier list is from left to right. So if there's no end game, then nothing else matters. But in the second expansion, they might redo the skills trees and spam optimization to include item rarities like this. The thing is that the game actually. So I know we. There's usually quite a bit of hyperbole right? When we talk about games with endgame or no endgame or whatever, technically, the technical definition of an endgame is any content that's in the game that's past the story, past the campaign. So anything that you do that does not involve the campaign, that continues your character in some sort of journey, is technically endgame. Now we can sit there and say a game has bad endgame or not enough endgame, but like when people say there's no endgame, that's technically like not correct. Diablo 4 actually has quite a bit of different endgame activities, but the problem with the endgame activities is that the activities become irrelevant very fast. Very fast. So the end game feels very dry because the end game is horizontal progression and not vertical progression for the most part. So you outgrow the end game very quickly, and then you have nothing else to do. So Pit technically is the long-term end game that people tend to not like, and then that's why we have the complaints that we have about the game. So it's there. There are things to do technically on the surface. They're just not very good or fun at the moment. Nor do they scale with your character and give you a reason to continue to farm for better loot to play these in-game activities. And that's where we are complaining about, which is rightfully so. We have every reason to complain about that. Like every reason to complain about that. You want end game that we could spend months in and not feel bored or burnt out? That's actually impossible. That's impossible. You would think. I'll put it this way. I'll put it this way. Let me. I'm gonna say impossible. Let me rephrase that. Name an action RPG right now that keeps 80 to 90% of their player base playing each season for 2+ months. Name any action RPG that keeps the player retention rate of 80+% of the player base from the season start and still maintain 80% of that player base going into month 2 of that season. This isn't none of them. None of them. I would love. What I'm saying is at some point you're going to burn out of an action RPG every season. There's just not enough that developers can give you or can do within a 3 to 4 month time span that's going to keep you interested for 8 hours a day for a whole 2 months. It's just not a thing in an action RPGs. Now, don't get me wrong. Some action RPGs do it better than others. Right? There are action RPGs who do better in-game content than others. Like that's very obvious. I'm sure we can name what those are, right? But the idea is that no matter what developers do for a specific season, your avid players are not going to play for an entire 2 months every day for 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours a day. Like there's just not enough there. Not even PoE, which has by far the most content, do players still play every single season and are playing for 2 months straight. And just playing for 2 months straight. Now, PoE's leagues might get the longest retention out of all the action RPGs because there's more systems. But eventually, going on to like week 3, week 4, your avid players, they're done. And so to get 3 to 4 weeks out of blasters is actually very good. That's a very good metric, honestly. Here's another good example, right? Let's look at Last Epoch. I think most people would generally say Last Epoch season right now, like its current season, was very well received. Would you agree? Like if you look at like across the spectrum, that most people would say Last Epoch had a really good season, right? But if you notice, most of your avid players or avid blasters or whatever, the moment that they beat the pinnacle boss, that was it. Most of your hardcore blasters stop playing in about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. But none of them will tell you that it's bad. Like all those guys would never say, "Oh, Last Epoch is terrible because it only lasted me a week or 2." But it took that smaller team, obviously, a long time to make such a great season for people to only play it, or for your avid players to play it for like a week-ish at a time. Right? But it doesn't mean it was bad. It doesn't mean people thought Last Epoch was terrible or bad. Right? None of us are going, "Oh man, I wish Last Epoch had like 80% more content." No one is saying that per se. But they did a phenomenal job for what they had, and people are done with it. Right? So I guess I say that it's just that we can't really look at it in the sense of, "Oh man, I would love to play a certain game for months like an action RPG for months at a time." Action RPGs just don't really have the draw. I'm gonna say draw, but there's just not enough to do in an action RPG, any action RPG, to sustain yourself for that long period of time. Did I try Last Epoch? I did play some last week. I didn't play this season though. What I think of their version of Heartseeker. I think it's neat. I think any skill in general in Last Epoch, I actually think is actually kind of neat because of the skill tree itself. So it's not necessarily about the new skill they added, but just the skill tree that allows you to do so much with the skill. That I think Last Epoch does a phenomenal job with. To be honest, when I'm working and not blasting a lot of time, I can get more than 6 weeks out of PoE League. I think the same could be said about a lot of the action RPGs. If you play, technically speaking, so I'll put it this way, like a person who plays maybe like 4 hours a week will be able to literally, get maybe about a month some change or whatever out of default because their playing time is considerably limited, right? Whereas a blaster can kind of do everything they want to do in this game in like 3 to 4 days for the season, right? Bill, this is Rain of Arrows. It should be in the description. Who was it? He said, Rogue said, "To be fair, I know I'm not alone. So far, I only had like 8-10 hours to play this season. I'm only in T2 with semi build. I feel happy every time I get to play it." Yeah. So like, generally speaking, yeah. I guess my comments is more so about like, for those who would like main action RPGs, right? If you main action RPGs, it's just kind of hard to really keep us happy for long periods of time. Panda's still here. What's up, man? But people want players have plenty of time for each season now, since they're like half a year long. There. I'm sorry, I played like 20 hours in 2 weeks and I was already done with D4. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just kind of it. I think it's hard to have the expectation of that kind of longevity in any action RPG in the current. But if you notice, though, for those who've been around on my stream a bit, if you notice, when I play, like there's a certain time frame that I'm a blaster. Like I'll put this way, like I'll blast for like the first maybe 3 to 4 days, but if you notice, like I quickly kind of become more casualist in terms of my approach to the game, because I know that if I continue to play at the clip that I know my other, you know, fellow content creators play or whatnot, then I'm going to be done with the game and I'm not going to have anything else to do. I purposely spaced out my testing and stuff like that I've done in this game to a degree to where I have something to do each stream per se. So I'm able to get about a good, what, maybe 3 weeks, sometimes a month out of the game. Because I'm not like going ultra try hard into the efficiency aspect of getting everything per se. But I do it at the beginning because I have build guides to update, and of course I have videos to make or whatever. But like, you know, once like the, you know, the stronger builds are done or whatnot, like I back away a little bit. Because it's kind of hard to really enjoy the game long term, you know, playing like that at that clip, because it's really not designed for, well, let's be honest, blasters. I think 2-month seasons would be much better than 3 months, especially since we don't get a mid-season patch anymore. I would agree. I think honestly though, I'll put it this way, if they did, I don't want to say smaller, if they did smaller themes that doesn't require like a whole 3 to 6 months to do or whatever, and then they, you know, focus more so on like maybe core game changes or, you know, maybe a couple of skill changes, I would almost think that they could probably do it in like a 2-month time frame. Like this time around, right? This season is only 2 months, right? But the boss powers aren't that crazy in terms of a design standpoint. So like if they could do that but focus more so on like core issues of the game and keep it around 2.5 months, that would feel a lot better, honestly. But I know that kind of like production schedule is kind of hard. But they do have multiple teams though, so they could be able, they could do that. Since it's not the same team that has to work on every season per se. So I think that's actually feasible. I mean, season 5 to season 6 was also 2 months. This season is also 2 months. The following season, like season 9, I think, looking at the roadmap, is also probably like a little over 2 months long. Trying to figure out how I want to do this chat thing. It's too big. of weird actually. I can't get the 1020. Can't run rails be like Death Trap. Just a spin reset CD with map at the map preparation. Nope. Can't. There's no way to just spam random rails on his own like you can with Death Trap. So the 2 month season can only work if they had a small season large. Well, that's the thing though. I really don't think that, like, I'll put it this way. When you look at some of the seasonal stuff that they've done, I don't really think a lot of their seasonal things have kind of really hit the mark. Like you look at last season, according to them, you know, like last season took 6 months to make. Like the seasonal theme itself was a 6-month job, and it's like that was you look at it and like sure there's some interactions you have to kind of make sure that works out the way it should, but it's like that's a 6-month job. Like seriously, like I don't know if the amount of time that they spend on doing some of their seasonal ideas is really worth it in the long run. Then again, like I don't really get to talk to the bigger portion of the casual player base to see what they really think about the seasonal theme stuff. But I don't know. I can't really imagine. That Blizzard stopped working with the 2-season themes. That I don't know. I have no idea. I assume they still have two teams that they alternate or whatever. But I think at the moment though, it would be I think it'd be more beneficial if they were to, you know, focus more on the fixing core elements of the game versus the shiny new theme. Then again, I guess depending on the player, you know, the player might care more about the shiny new thing than they do about base game changes. So it's kind of hard because like we might care more about the base game changes, but like a different segment of the community might care more about the shiny new toy thing for the season, right? Like the new cosmetics, the new thing that you can slot in the armor jewelry place thing, you know, like maybe they care more about that and less about the bugs and like the, you know, class balance that we might care about, right? So wants me to say, have I played Death Trap? I have not. Careful with bursting Fiend's Boon has been buffed for 3 seasons. The explosions make it so the enemies don't drop Aether. Forgot about that actually. I usually don't pick it, but yeah, I forgot about it. The thing too about these themes right now, especially like the powers theme, like you know how we're like we get, you know, we got boss powers this time, and we're gonna get like some other like borrow power or something next season as well, and whatnot. The thing I don't like about those right now is that like it's very obvious that each like that the classes are having issues with, you know, with their skills, like things not working correctly, tags don't do what they're supposed to do, tooltips are still kind of broken. When you add borrow power to it, you know, it's very hard to get to the core root of what the problems of, you know, said builds are or skills are, because we're always applying borrow power to them. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not saying they can't do that until balance is perfect by any means, but I think there's still a long way to go between some of the skills just not working correctly or working at all, and then we're just adding borrow power on top of the things that already don't work well or not, or it's coded poorly, and then we have even more problems when the borrow power scales with said broken thing that was coded poorly, that they have to now try to find some way to fix. However, we do got to think about, you know, the players that don't care about that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, I don't really care about the balance or the this thing or the masterwork and whatnot. I just want the cool little lightning power that shoots when I right click or whatever, right? And there, you know, there is an audience that is like that, and there's nothing wrong with it by any means. But you know, if that audience is considerably bigger than the audience that do care about the balance and, you know, that kind of stuff, then well, you know, are the Berserk skins going out of the shop soon? I honestly, I don't know. Why is that? I never did Rain of Bros, so I didn't dig his core build. Rain of Bros is a pretty convoluted build to play. The setup I have right now is not as simple as you can play it, but I don't know. For the amount of work, it can just feel well, really clunky. But last season it was, you know, Rogue's strongest build, so people kind of dealt with it, I guess. But once Death Trap kind of, you know, came in the picture, or was the meta build, you know, people were way happier because it's like, oh, that's a little less convoluted than Rain of Arrows. I mean, it still has this, you know, it's try hard issues or whatever you want to put it, but it's not as bad as Rain of Arrows in that sense. Nice rogue. One thing that concerns me are introduced bugs that weren't there before. Example, hordes. I know, right? That kind of gets to me too. Ah, campfire. But yeah, Rennerville plays like a combo point build at the moment. A combo point build without the combo points. Guess right now I'm just kind of farming mats in a sense so I can min-max at some point. Min-max something, either Rain of Arrows or Heartseeker. Haven't really decided yet. I should have forgot to switch this out. Swap the boss powers, but didn't swap that out. See something. Ass separators between. Test again. Actually, not that bad. Because I have to like lower the font. Your alt rogue is another rogue. The armory does the armory's interesting. Thomas said, "You're too lazy to do the armory." But I mean, you can always you use your other rogue for like that's the spark and stuff, right? So that makes sense. Actually, let me see. What do I got for? The anti-armory crew. They thought that all the way through. I'm just glad that we actually do have it. It was kind of rough not having it, period, for like the longest. It's got some problems, but I rather like have it than like not have it at all. Interestingly enough, though, like we look at it right, and Diablo 3 also had issues with their armory as well. Like that never got completely fixed. So, but that being said, I don't think we've D3 was that Bliss 2025. What they gotta do D3 like? I'm not. I mean, I like D3. Um, it's had you know, some issues for a long time. Um, but I say like towards the back end of D3, like the last like year and a half ish. Last year and a half, 2 years of D3, they actually, you know, did really well with the game. Echoing nightmares and visions. Really? They're still alive? Also, wolves in 5. I don't know about that, but I'm still surprised that we have a Knicks versus Pacers Eastern Conference Finals, man. The rivalry continues from back in the day. I feel like I can't trust my my 1 to 2 wave damage. Like I have to stay a little longer than I would like to. Can they make an aspect for Heart Seeker like Star Shards for Dance of Knives? That would be pog, no? Not really, in my opinion. And here's why. Appreciate the follow. I feel like we already have a lot of that stuff already on road. Think about it. Think about all the aspects we have right now for all the core skills. What do they mostly do? What is the theme? They either bounce and ricochet, or, well, I mean, that's kind of really it. When you think about it, right? Like, outside of like, you know, the cutthroat skills, all of the marksman skills or whatever for aspects are all kind of bounce and ricochet, right? Branching volleys, more ricochets, they deal more damage. Rapid fire with repeating, right? Ricochets, right? Pin shot, we get the little we get the side arrows, which is a little different, I guess. What do we get for Star Shards for Dance of Knives? Bounce and ricochet. What did we get from Eagle Horn Unique? The bounce and ricochet. You see a theme here? I feel like there's just like I feel like there's very little creativity in our aspects. So honestly, no, I wouldn't want to see personally I would not want to see our Seeker follow that same trajectory. What about returning projectile aspect? I'd probably would rather see that on pin shot, to be honest. I think pin shot that'd be kind of neat on pin shot. But make your placement work for shotgunning. Honestly, so that's another thing. I feel like I also feel like there's no range play in this game. And the more reasons you give someone to literally shoot someone in the face at point blank range, because that is simply the best way to play it, then we will never really have any sort of range bow play. I think that's kind of why you see me play Rain of Arrows more than any other builds right now, because it's really the only range build we kind of have. Because there's actually incentive to do so because of the amulet, mostly, and the distant damage stuff that we have. There's a reason kind of to do it, you know. But if we're decent, you know, if we don't have reasons to want to play at a distance on marksman skills, then we'll never get there. Like right now, all the marksman skills are better played up close. Barrage is better played up close, which I guess is kind of a hybrid. It's meant to be able to do kind of two different things. That's fine, but like rapid fire, honestly, right now is kind of better. It's kind of better played up close. Pin shot is definitely better played up close. Heartseeker is better played up close. It'd be nice if there was a way to, you know, have a bow skill function kind of like a bow skill, rather than like, you know, playing melee with a bow. in a sense. Don't get me wrong, I love me some Heartseeker. If I can get back to the days of being able to like play it at a like being more beneficial to play at a distance, I would love that in some way, shape, or form. Same with rapid fire, same with pin shot. But I don't dislike the idea of the returning projectile for pin shot in general. Yeah, make victimize back so we can play Heartseeker at range. I'm gonna be honest with you, Juke. I don't think that's gonna be enough to make you play range Heartseeker. Unless they change the way that like victimize functions at a core level. Right now, victimize benefits from you gathering stuff into a tight ball. Right now. So, and even season 4 victimize was the same thing. The most efficient way to play season 4 victimize was not range. It was actually up close. But you could play it at range if you wanted to, but you dealt more damage if you were to get up close and kind of stack, you know, mobs on top of the victimized procs or whatever. So I would like to see victimized come back, but it will still be more beneficial to play it up close than to play it at a distance. But yeah. But I will say the root problem isn't really like the skill itself. but the way that pit is designed. Because in Infernal Horde, you can totally play range, not a problem, right? Most of your open world content, you can also play range. But when it comes to pit, most of your progression comes from elites. And, you know, getting the elites together in like a ball or whatever to kill them quickly. And you can't really do that at range. There's not like enough stopping power of a crowd control where you can lock them in place, you know, all together clumped up from a distance. So the playstyle of pits kind of like sort of, you know, kills the ability to like want to play range in the true sense. I think Rain of Arrows gets a pass because Rain of Arrows has such a wide AoE that you're going to hit everything anyways without clumping them up. So you can actually truly stay at a distance if you wanted to. But the other builds don't have that sort of luxury. You have the idea your skills no longer bounces or ricochets but deal 100% more damage. I don't know. That would actually only be like a 25% damage increase, I guess, for something like Heartseeker. Well, I guess you would take the other passive, so you also get the 15% from the crit damage, I guess. Something like Heartseeker, you have a slower clearing, but better single target for sure. Rogue is like, that's Mowgli here, Joe. I'm sitting there trying to analyze it too. I'm like, well, if you did that. Rogue is like in the true melee knight build. Yeah, I mean, Twisting Blaze is the closest thing you're going to get to that. Twisting Blaze and also Invigorating Strike. Invigorating Strike is actually a lot of fun, and it's a true stabby mixed stab build. But I do agree that we do need more playstyles, though. And the key passives should probably encourage different playstyles. I agree. Invigorating Strike, aka the London special. Oh man. Get some of the other glyphs that are like low ball at the moment. Roll up there. Jeez, I failed 45% chance. Seriously, game? Sag. Victimize must still be cheeks. Yep. I actually did some testing this season on Victimize just to double check. And yeah, it's bad. Like really bad. I wonder if it's still if it actually works with the for her. I, s- I say fur, basically. Fur, fur. However it's pronounced. Do you know if the oath scrolls for Mythic Unique still works? It's been a late. The oath scrolls. I'm actually a little confused. Sorry, what now? Oh, that thing. Okay, so you're saying that does it work for Mythic Uniques? So well, it doesn't do anything for like Mythic Uniques. Like you don't really. So you can get like sparks if that's what you're asking. Like you can like level up a new character and get sparks like easily or whatever. That's what the thing is. But you don't get Mythic Uniques from the vendor per se. But that little trick to level a new character for additional sparks and like really fast or whatever, like that still is in the game, yes. Roughly how much less damage than close quarters combat? Like 50%? No, way less than that, man. Way less than that. If it was only like a 50% reduction, I probably would have kept some bills victimized, honestly. We're talking about like victimized being like I can't I can't even give you like a accurate number, but let's just say if I had to do like pit tiers wise, it's about like 9 to 10 pit tiers behind close quarters combat stuff. Using the same build, like using the same setup or whatever. GT would not die there. Yeah, sure wouldn't. Yeah, now that killing me was actually a surprise. You know, we'll go to another one. Kind of level my glyph. It's not just how much HP you have on DT. It's crazy how everything synergizes the way it does on DT in a sense where you literally become immortal. And becoming immortal also increases your damage because you're obviously just increasing your HP because more HP, more damage. So there's like a lot of synergies. Literally OP, yeah. I doubt it actually stays in that form next season though. I would expect some pretty hefty death trap nerfs going forward. But that's what I don't like though. I feel like we have these seasonal builds where like one build would be vastly stronger than like all the other builds in like a specific class. and then like it starts to it like takes turns, right? It's like, oh, it ends up being like one skill's turn. Now it's the other skill's turn, or maybe one skill gets it for like 2 seasons straight or whatever, and the other builds are bad. So we have like seasonal you know, metas, I guess you could say, versus just having like, you know, a couple of builds that are relatively close together, but they're considered good, like really good builds. Like it happened that way last season too, right? Where last season Rain of Arrows was like far beyond any other rogue build. Death Trap was number 2, but it was pretty far behind Rain of Arrows in general. And now they swapped this season, right? Now it's Death Trap that's far ahead of every other build, with Rain of Arrows being like a pretty distant second. Nico, what's going on? A bit of this Rain of Arrows. Trying to finish leveling up some glyphs. Oh, I'm out of a elixir juice. There we go. Yo, Miko, how's it going? I miss Heartseekers. I found that pretty fun and straightforward. I'm gonna be honest. I think people misremember Heartseeker. As someone who's probably played it more than the majority of the player base has played it across multiple different seasons, I feel like people misremember what it was, or in a sense, I think people remember how strong it was, right? Relative to their other rogue builds, they remember it being like one of the best rogue builds at the time, right? But what people don't remember was how convoluted that build was in terms of, you know, getting good damage out of it. And all the triple, like double dipping, and you either dealt no damage or you dealt a lot of damage. Everything had to stay in the cow traps, and the cow traps, you know, made you jump back. So you had to jump back, dash forward, keep everything into the cow trap, because the cow trap duration also increased the amount of damage the enemies took in the cow trap as well. So that was like really janky. I mean, Heartseeker was not for like speed farming, like, you know, like open world farming. Yeah, you can just click the button and stuff dies, right? You just hit Heartseeker and stuff dies. But like, if we're talking about anything pit related, it was not like straightforward at all. If you wanted the big damage numbers, I'll put it that way. And ironically enough, Heartseeker now, or Heartseeker in the past couple of seasons, has been considerably more intuitive to play, like easier to play, which is what makes me finding a little interesting when someone's, oh, you know, Heartseeker was so like straightforward, you know, like easier, more brain dead before. I'm like, honestly, it's more brain dead now than it was in season 4. It's just that we kind of have to jump in with close quarters combat, but the rotations are easier. Your damage doesn't spike nearly as much if you do or do not get the double dipping to happen, because there are no double dippings in that case. You had better movement now than you did before. Heartseeker never been strong enough. Yeah, exactly. Heartseeker right now is definitely like, if you put Heartseeker Yeah, yeah. Basically, yeah. Heartseeker is like 100 times stronger now than it was in season 4. But you also got to remember other builds have gotten stronger too. So relative Heartseeker might seem weaker relative to some of the other rogue builds are out, like for instance, like Renovaros or Death Trap or whatever like that, right? But compared to what it was in season 4, it's actually stronger and easier to perform. But I can understand people not wanting to build it close quarters combat. Now that I can understand, wanting to jump and be up close and stuff like that, or be that up close, to proctor close quarters combat. I can understand that part, right? I just want to play builds that aren't reliant on bugs or snapshotting every, etc. Everyone plays the same couple of builds, kind of boring to me. I can agree with that. I looked away for like a second. Sorry, I'm pretty casual today. No. It's not. So it's not your fault. It's something that I've seen in general like quite a bit. And I think just in general people tend to remember like the hype behind a build and the tier that it was in versus like how it actually performed and played, right? But I guarantee you right now, if Heartseeker, if we had Heartseeker in S tier above Depth Trap, you would see everybody playing Heartseeker and be like, "Yo, this feels so good to play. This is so awesome! Like I'm zipping around, popping things, teleporting around, man. I'm like destroying things with my clone. Like if Heartseeker was above Depth Trap and S tier, everybody would be like, Depth Trap who? What's Depth Trap? Who playing Depth Trap, bro? All about that Heartseeker." And then people won't say, "Oh, I miss Heartseeker in season 4," because they're being like, "Yo, Heartseeker season 8 best ever," right? Yeah, so it's literally just about the damage number at the end of the day for a chunk of people, for a chunk of players, right? How many zeros does it have at the end of the damage number relative to the other builds? And I get it, no one wants to play a weak build, right? But yeah. Well, I keep feeling these like 40% chance to level the glyph or whatever. Is there a way to display more buff icons above your skill bar? No. They have a problem with that, man. Vernilla, what's going on, man? How's it going? Happy what's happening. Darkside first time live. Have you min-maxed Dance of Knives this season? No. I really don't like Dance of Knives to be honest. But Dance of Knives is not a push build at all. You would not want to push with that. And it can barely farm T4 unless you have like GG gear for Dance of Knives. If you like it, don't get me wrong, continue to play it, but like it's not like don't expect it, to be like, anything on a level of most of the other rogue builds, to be honest. Give me one sec. Team. Sorry, give me 1 second. That's the correct link. Team at whatever. I keep forgetting to change the link. I'm bad at that. My apologies. Grez, what's going on, man? Alright. I'm getting a little bit of fatigue and trying to level my glyphs with this build. Yeah, sorry, man. Cool, that's where I'm at. Farm T4 open. Then you'll fill that pit. Well, you're gonna fill that pit at some point. It's just get some nice fails earlier. Right. That's all. But yeah. Heavy work schedule, yeah. So if you want something pretty, you know, strong with a little bit less investment to feel strong off the bat, then yeah, Death Trap is where it's at for sure. Yeah. Yeah. You're enjoying TB, but no one Barrage and TB now more that no one is playing. Barrage is like silly fun, man. Like the way the attack speed feels or whatever like that when you're playing Barrage. It's the closest thing we have to multi-shot, even though it's not multi-shot, but it can kind of feel like that somewhat. With the amount of arrows just shooting everywhere, and just even watching the health bar like tick down, you know, kind of slowly, but like ticking a lot is actually kind of like cool to watch. Oh, my bad. Yeah, after image and clone feels like an yeah. Very true. Very true. Yeah, but I think Blizzard is gonna have their work cut out for them in terms of trying to make some of the rogue builds actually feel like something again. Something that isn't, you know, ultimate base at this point. It's kind of funny because we used to complain about like close quarters combat not being viable or momentum not being viable, and now we kind of sort of have the opposite problem. Well, not sort of. Oh, also our ults were bad, right? Remember, our ults were bad. We complained about that, and then everything was precision based, basically. And now we have the exact opposite. Oh, and combo point, right? It's like everything's combo point, precision. The ultimates are bad. Now it's like the ultimates are great. Precision sucks. Combo point sucks. So I am all for close quarters combat, you know, getting the attention it should have always like gotten, right? But same thing with ultimates too as well. But it's like looking at it now, I wonder where do they go from here? Like, how do you make builds that aren't ultimate builds, not rely on clone without just like completely just, you know, without nerfing the clone? Because you have to nerf the clone. Or remove the double damage temper or something or whatever. Complete 180, no in between, exactly. Huh. Soon. No. Okay. All right. Control, I guess. I don't want to finish that. Also, there's devious. Can we get one? No. Oof. Yeah, but isn't Poison Imbue, Twisting Blaze relying on the Word of Hakan amulet with Rain of Arrows again this season? Or did we get rid of that?
Still got some good in it. Use it well.
Yeah. Oh. I think that is enough for me for the evening. I'm gonna have to probably just wrap it up. I just I was gonna do a normally don't stream on Sundays, but because I didn't stream yesterday, I kind of wanted to stream today. But I think going forward, though, I'm gonna start playing a second game on the second half of the stream. I guess I haven't decided what game that's gonna be yet. I literally can't decide. Like I'm like, I don't know if I should try to finish Berserker or should I try to do like something on the newer side. I don't know. CH60 said thanks for the stream. Yeah, man. It's also been kind of weird too because I don't have my my third monitor, which I usually have over here, which usually has a chat on it. So I'm actually sharing the chat with my OBS at the moment. Which has been kind of different and weird. So I've been trying to like go back and forth between a couple of different chat programs, kind of. to try to fit in between or in my OBS or whatever. Some is a little more distracting than like others, but I'm also not used to like reading my chat on this side either though. It's like so weird to me. Although that's how I started my stream. I started my stream over 5 years. Yeah, about 5 years ago, with the chat being on my left side for such a long time. And then when I got the triple monitor set up, I had my entire like chat on one monitor on the right side for me. Exchange player secret try. Try what now? Oh, fur. I say fur because I never say apogic, apogee. I never say that right. I troll Mippy all the time. I'm like, oh, you mean the apologetic aspect, right? And he's like, the what aspect? Yeah, the apologetic aspect. You know, the ultimate aspect. Have you been doing that, Blame? And if so, how does that feel? You're trying to right now, it feels really strong. I mean, I guess it makes sense considering that like considering that all your damage is coming from clone anyway. But I think the hard part is that what do you replace with it though? Like where do you put that versus like where would you put it and also what do you replace? You know what I mean? Like Behemoth is good, but I think that that's the only one that you can replace unless you just don't do like Starless Skies or something. But I don't really know if that's even a possible thing. Appreciate the follow. Replace Behemoth for the time being because like Behemoth is kind of like I won't say like a double dip, but like since it increases your damage and your clone's damage because you also get the ranks to the 2 ranks or whatever like that too. So it's actually better than it looks on paper for clone builds. But you also need cold clip. So it's like I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Can you get away with not doing cold clip? No, you can't because you need that. Because you also open up the cold imbuement. So no, yeah, you just kind of. The Behemoth is still good, but it might be the only one you can replace it with. I don't know. I guess Flat Clone is doing way more damage than that's already. Oh yeah, I get it. I get it. But I guess anything that buffs you also buffs the clone, but so if something buffs you and the clone, and then it also buffs the clone, then it's technically like a double. I don't say like a no, I wouldn't call it like a technical double dip, but that's what I mean. Historically speaking, stars can usually be cut when you're at like the very end game. I guess in this case, it'll be kind of I'm gonna say nearly impossible to really manage a resource without Starless in the build like this. Um, especially with Crown. Like with Crown, you just I don't even know if it's even possible without Crown. With Crown, this Cold Clips tech still work with Beastfall. Nope, they nerfed that. They got rid of that this season. The current items and gears really add 6 to 10 seconds. Yeah, because we reset the clone really easily because of Crown, so that makes sense. All right, well, keep messing with it. Can't think of anything else to kind of give like that you would want to like possibly give up for, other than Behemoth or whatever, Behemoth. If you reset clone fast and You said it wouldn't be as strong. I mean, I guess yes and no. It only shines if you can work on level 69. Well, I guess at that point you just won't cast clone. Like I guess I think that's why he was asking. That makes sense now. Blaine actually says Blaine. Okay, well Blaine makes sense now. Like trying to like see what your stacks are on the bar. That makes sense, right? Because like once you're at like a certain like stack or whatever, then you don't want to cast clone. You want to keep clone out as long as possible at that point, so you won't recast. I guess it's kind of hard to do that when you don't when you can't see the stacks on the bar, right? So you said that's the main issue. Yeah, I mean that's also the issue with precision stacks too on random rail builds is like similar issue. You just can't you just don't know where you're at on some cases. But anyways, we're gonna rate out, and tomorrow we'll start diving into a second game to play for fun on the back end. I'll probably still start D4 and then start masterworking something or whatever. I still haven't decided what build I kind of want to min max, I guess. Like a part of me wants to do random arrows, but man. But then another part is like, yo, but Heartseeker, right? Right. Like Heartseeker for sure, right? Yeah. But I also need random arrows to be able to level up my glyphs still, because I can't really level up. I guess I could level up with Heartseeker technically. It'll just take longer. Considerably longer to do. Oh, the song. All right, we're gonna go to Bannock. I haven't seen Bannock in forever. We're gonna go to Bannock. He was a guy who like you would stream a lot back in the day, mainly during the D3 days and early D4 days. But anyhow, as always, appreciate you guys chilling out with me, hanging out. Uh, y'all can literally be anywhere else, but you are here with me, and of course, I appreciate that. Never take it for granted. But enjoy Bannock. I'll see y'all tomorrow night, and as always, until next time.